Hello, team. Welcome back to Pictures and Patter. A very exciting one today. I am very lucky and thankful to be joined by the Bears' own Edwin Lee Gibson. It's going to be a fantastic interview. Can't wait to talk to Edwin about the Bear and everything that he's done in his career. Over 100 theatrical performances from Edwin. So it's going to be a great chat. But make sure that you check out our sponsors at Comey and Paisley. They sponsor this podcast. They're a fantastic, fantastic bunch there. And I can't wait to get into this. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get to my chat with Edwin. Edwin, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh,
We're talking off camera there about you have been over to the UK before. Have you been up to Scotland before in your
no,
travels?
no, I was going to work at Edinburgh
Yeah.
um maybe 3 years ago. It just didn't work out, and I'm a theater guy, so I'd always wanted to come there and work at
Yeah.
the festival there. Maybe it'll happen sometime, but yeah, yeah,
It's always a great atmosphere at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. It's always
for
something
sure.
really special with it. But what's your experience been like in the UK? Is it mostly been in London? What's been your favourite memories every time you've sort of came over?
Yeah, I think I started going back and forth a little bit. Well, I came over once to just kind of see what it was. It was like in the early 2000s, and I was like, yeah. And then I came back to work there in 2013.
Hmm.
I was working on a play that was touring. Well, we came to the UK to tour, and we were in Birmingham.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we were staying in Kent, and traveling
Yeah.
down, staying and working there and coming down to London. I think it was Fairfield Halls in Croydon, South London, yeah. Uh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. So I've been back and forth a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually hoping to get my status adjusted so that I can spend more time there.
Brilliant. I love that. I love that. We'd love to have you more in the
All
UK.
right.
You're saying all these, Kent's lovely, but I used to work in a property show. So I was just driving up and down the country. So all of these places you're mentioning, I'm like, oh, I was at a house there. So that's how I know all these places down south. But
Yes.
always want to go back to the start when I have people on the show. And I want to know what were the movies and TV shows that you watched when you were younger that first sort of piqued your interest and got you interested in acting and performing and writing? Like, what were those formative sort of pieces of art?
Well, I'll go back to Houston, Texas, where I'm from. And my mom was classically trained in voice.
Nice.
My dad was a garbage man. They picked up the
Hmm.
rubbish. And so I would always I loved. I mean, I grew up on a lot of English television. Are You Being Served? Desmond's, EastEnders.
Yeah.
So I really loved it, and I remember like watching shows like All in the Family and Sanford and Son, and at the end in the credits, I would see for All in the Family till Death Us Do Part,
Mm.
which is a British show, and that's where All in the Family came from.
Yeah.
And Sanford and Son was based on an English comedy called Steptoe and Son.
Yes. Yes, it
And
was.
so I began to, that's when I just really started to see that the world was so big, even as a child. Because I asked my mom, I said, so what does based on mean? She said, well, it means that the shows came from from England, and now there's a US version. So that really piqued my interest a lot with with understanding kind of how differently uh work was made in different
Mm.
places, then how different, and then how vast art is.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that really piqued my interest, and I was like 11 years old.
I love that. I love how you're getting all these sort of UK influences coming over. And it's always fascinating because you never know what travels sort of from your country to elsewhere. And the fact that you watched EastEnders over there, which I
Yeah.
think like no one else in the world must know what EastEnders is apart from us over here. But that's fascinating to me.
Well, and then after Saturday Night Live went off,
Hmm.
Doctor Who came on.
Oh,
And
nice.
And then if I stayed up late enough, I could watch Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Oh,
So I had this plethora of things that really, really influenced me as an artist. And even now it's like I've traveled so many places that um the way I sound, sometimes there's a lilt that comes out that may be from my time in the UK, or there's a lilt that may come out that be from my time in France.
yeah.
So people ask a lot of times, where are you from? And I'm like, well, there's no place I never felt out of place. So I'm from everywhere.
Do you think that helps with your sort of accent work? Because obviously on the bear you're doing an accent. Do you think that sort of exposure to different cultures from your sort of well-traveled time as an actor sort of helps with that naturally?
I think so. That and the fact that I love to disappear. That's my job, right?
Yeah.
My job is to disappear, and people are often very surprised. They expect when they notice me from the bear that they're expecting a certain voice to come out of me.
Hmm. Yeah.
And when the voice doesn't come out of me, they're very, very shocked. But I do think just being part of the world, being in the theater since I was a kid,
Hmm.
uh, working in the theater. I think all those things, they kind of create this perfect storm of of energies of of a voice as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, I think that was a really, really big thing. Like my mom would say to me sometimes, I don't know why you're having tea and toast. We're not English. Because I was doing that when I was a kid. She'd be like, this is the weirdest kid in the world. And but I was always encouraged.
That's
Yeah,
amazing. And you talk
yeah.
about that encouragement because I know that you started acting quite fairly young, like, getting sort of paid gigs and paid work. Like, what was those first steps into acting like for you? Like, and obviously your mum comes from a sort of classically trained background. Like, was she quite supportive of it?
Yeah, well, she's from a very small town in Texas called Longview, Texas. Very,
Mm,
very tiny town. But yeah, she was had an idea of the world. My dad was really, I think, who encouraged me the most because he would always say, I don't know nothing about that acting blank. Um, but it's your life. Do what you want to do. Anyone to give you any problems, you tell them come see me. So
mm.
that was so that was always good. Yeah, and I started working. Well, I'll go sidebar. A lot of people don't know that I'm a stutterer.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and so I think being a stutterer, growing up as a stutterer, I'm still a stutterer, I say. Um, my attachment to language has always been very interesting because I just love language. And then I started to think, oh, wow, if these people on TV have a certain speech pattern and stuttering's dysfunction of your speech pattern, then I've got a pattern of speech. So then I started seeing these characters and I'm like, what are their patterns of speech? And so I've really grown up with all these characters, really kind of understanding how the pattern of speech makes me understand who they are as people
Right.
regionally, in a larger context, socially. And so it's this little game I like to play with these characters, really finding that out. So I say my stuttering is my superpower. So
Yeah.
yes, so when I started working, I think my first paid job was when I was 16.
Mm,
Um, when I memorize the lines, I can get into the character, and that makes it much easier. So I would steal. So I stole the script, and I went home and I memorized the whole thing. So the next day in the audition, the page is not even turned to where it is. I'm
yeah.
on a whole different piece. Now I got the paper like here,
Amazing.
but I'm performing what I know of the character then. So
Brilliant.
yeah, it's always fun for
Yeah,
me.
there'll be a lot of kids out there, like, and people like, they're thinking, can I get into acting? And but kids with stutter, but like you've shown, you've turned what could have been an obstacle into what you say a superpower. Like that's
Yeah,
absolutely magnificent. I love
yeah,
that.
yeah. I've got a distinct advantage over other actors, I think.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
And you've talked about you being a theatre actor, and I know
Mm.
that you've done, I think it's over 100 theatrical performances. Like, what is it?
104.
Yeah,
104.
brilliant. What is it that draws you to the theatre, to the stage? Like, what is it that sort of motivates you or you find fulfilling about that form of art?
Well, just the last word you said, art.
Mm,
It's art and it's kind of like the bear in some ways. It's kind of like I always like to think about where uh fine art and performance art meet
mm,
and how it becomes really, really fluid. During my time in the theater, I've always just been uh intrigued about these worlds, these characters that are not real,
yeah.
and I can how they relate to me each night.
Mm,
So, and how I relate to it, how it changed and how I changed. So there's something I didn't understand when I was younger, but as I got older, as an actor, it became okay. No, I don't want to be a performer. I want to listen each night because everything is different from night to night.
right.
Um, the audience is different. And I always say that, I'm sure I'm not the only actor to ever say this, but I say that each night is the first time these characters have ever said these words.
Mm,
And so that's how I have always approached it.
yeah.
So if I can figure out what this dance is with the audience every night, 8 times a week, um, then I can also develop my listening skills better.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Totally.
yeah, because I call myself more a listener now than an actor.
I love that. I love that because it's about sort of being responsive in the moment. And you hear a lot of sportsmen say like you sort of play the man and not the game. And that's almost
Yeah,
like you. You're playing the crowd. You're not playing like, okay, this is what we're doing sort of beat for beat every night. It's going to change depending on the
yeah.
feeling, the mood of the room.
It does. I think it also keeps me on my toes. I'm not taking any nights off. Because I'm a stutterer, I can't afford to not be locked in.
Yeah.
You never know when it's going to show up. So I've been able to keep it at bay or at least hide it. Um, yeah. And some of the characters actually need a bit of a stutter. So there you go.
Totally, you can incorporate it in, and
Yeah.
just obviously you've got a lot to pick from here. So this might be an incredibly hard question. It might be
Okay.
an impossible question, but what has been to date your favorite role that you've played on stage?
I always, whenever I'm asked this question, I always say, well, I don't know if I should pick one because the others might appear to me in my sleep and ask why why it wasn't them. I don't want to be haunted by them. Uh,
Yeah,
uh you know, I don't have a favorite. Man, I really love Ibrahim right now, and I really pull
yeah.
for him.
Mhm.
Uh, man, I love that guy so much.
Let's talk about him. Like, obviously, The Bear, one of the biggest shows on the planet. And I am not being hyperbolic when I say this. It's my favorite television show. Like,
uh,
I genuinely love it. What was the process like of getting the role of Ibrahim? Like, what do you remember first hearing about The Bear, first hearing about that character?
you know, I go back to something I said earlier about when you mentioned the word art and about how, and I think about how as artists we we work in the dark.
Mm,
We're just working, and all those things I talked about earlier led up to this example. Christopher Storer, the creator and showrunner, said to me that he had seen me in a play in Chicago
mm,
in 2017
right.
and said, I want to work with that guy. I didn't read for the show until the summer of 21. I'd been to Paris and working with Peter Brook and all of that stuff. And it's like you just never know. So if I take a night off, if I'm not working the way I work, this probably doesn't happen. But um
You could say that you created your own opportunity when it came to.
wow, look, you watched season 4.
I made my way through, making my way through.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet. I'm a
It's
theater guy.
hard. It's
Oh,
hard to
I
binge
know.
something when it drops
I,
in
I
time, you know?
I guess I guess so. But when I got the when I got the notice to read for this new show, um he's only described as a mystery who's lived 1,000 lives.
Right.
And for some actors, they need a lot of stuff here. I only needed those 7 words. And I was like, oh, I get this. Now, the casting people came back and said it's got to be in for it got you have to have everything in a day before. And I was like, oh shoot, I don't have a reader. So I sent the audition in as a monologue. And so the casting and Christopher got it, the folks at FX and Hulu got it, and they sent my manager a note back asking if I could resend the audition with a a reader so I could do
Yeah.
the scene. But I guess it turned out that Christopher had already seen me. It was probably like, that's the guy I saw
Yeah.
years ago that I wanted to work with. So by the time we met on Zoom, it was just a really easy meeting, and we had a great chat. And I got off the line, and about maybe by the end of the day, I knew I got the role.
Mm.
Um, and what they told me later on was that I was the only actor that sent a tape in that wasn't trying to make the character funny.
Right. Right.
Because because he's a very, very real guy, and I felt sympathy. I felt for him even in that moment. So that's what the process was. Well, you never know who's watching is kind of my point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. That's brilliant and inspiring and very, like I said, very in tune with where the sort of character has went as
Yeah.
well. So it's absolutely wonderful.
Thank
What
you.
has been your favorite scene to perform?
The favorite scene to perform. I mean, I love anytime I'm around these yahoos I get to work with, you know. I
Yeah.
I just love them all so much. Liza, who plays Tina,
Mm,
she and I go back. I won't say how many years or she'll choke me. But she and I did a fair amount of theater in New York together.
mm,
We didn't even know each other was on this show, and I hadn't seen her in about 10 years. So,
brilliant.
and we just picked up where we always left off. So that energy and that chemistry
Yeah.
uh is just very natural between us. Um, Happy to say also that with Lionel, who plays Marcus, he and I we get on so well. We actually make time to go have a dinner, together each season, just him and me. Um, uh,
Brilliant.
yeah, Jeremy and I, we have we've always had these little scenes, but we get to like really, really kind of dig in together. And Evan and I don't get to do a whole lot together. Um, um, Maddie's just all over the place, so everybody gets to hang out with Maddie and Abby as well. We don't have a lot together, but it's just it's just really the energy. So I don't have a favorite. Io, I wish I got to do more with her. I mean, he thinks I'm bonkers, but that's okay. She just
Yeah.
looks at
I
it.
love that. I love
Yeah,
that. You can totally tell, like you're talking about, even the relationship on screen between Ibrahim and Tina, that natural chemistry that the two have and the sense of history. And it makes perfect sense that you guys had that behind the scenes just because of how well it comes across on screen. It's absolutely fantastic.
yeah,
And I think obviously you haven't even watched it yet. It's just came out, so don't want to spoil too much. But your character really has a great and really well earned arc in season 4 that I was just like, oh, this makes me so happy that, we're getting this creating opportunities and the ideas and stuff like that. When the script for season 4 came across your desk, what were you thinking?
Oh, it was interesting. I was like, they're gonna give me they're gonna take the Lambo out for a spin this season. Uh,
I love
no,
that.
no, I was like, wow, this is gonna be interesting. And then uh Lionel, we saw each other at one of these award shows, and he was like saying to me, he was like, "Oh, so somebody saves the day this season, eh?" And I was like, "What?" So I came back and I read the rest of the scripts, and I was like, "Oh, interesting." Of
Yeah.
course, you never know how things are going to turn out. I didn't know that the great Rob Reiner, who I've been watching on All in the Family when I was a kid, was going to be on the show. Uh, because no one told me,
Yeah.
and I got to set. And it's like people, a couple of the hair people in a hair and makeup knew, and I didn't know. But but it was great. It's great. What I really what's really come to me is that people have been watching Ibrahim this whole time.
Mm,
Sometimes a character like this, and you have to resist as an actor trying to force your way into scenes and things like that. And
mm,
you sit back and you play the character honestly, and you can tell the story without any words, which is kind of how I like to work and
yeah.
how I'm allowed to work. And Christopher and Joanna have allowed me to really work that way. Then when it comes time, then some people, like in season 2, they didn't realize that they cared about Ibrahim until he was gone from a
Oh,
culinary, and then he comes back. But it's an ensemble piece, so you play your position, and the creators really found this opportunity to really push things forward, kind of what I'd been thinking, you
yeah.
know, um, and maybe telepathy there, between them and me. Um, and it's just been really, really great. I haven't watched it because I wanted to kind of see what people felt about it, how people feel about it.
Waiting
Uh,
for the reaction. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's kind of, again, as a theater actor, I haven't seen the play I've done. You just accept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true. You never think about that. That's so true.
Well, I just have to accept what I've done
Mhm.
and how people perceive it and how the creators have decided to weave the story together. And from what I'm hearing, maybe I need to watch it soon.
It's brilliant, and I think that you've got it spot on the turning point of your character when he drops out of culinary school, and we have
Mhm.
that like, oh, what's happening? And absence making the heart grow fonder. And
Yeah.
so I talk about the show with my friend Ed, and when I told him that I was talking to you today, his reply was like, "He is the man." Like to a lot of people,
Oh,
he's just
thank you.
like, you're the favorite character. Like, and I think it is that honesty, and that's what makes the show is how real and lived in it feels. And I think that your performance is a testament to that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I pull for him a lot, and it's really interesting. I had conversation with someone your side last year, and I don't know where she's from. Um maybe she's from Ghana,
Mm-hmm.
but she's a Brit, and she was just talking about how immigrants there in the UK have really
Yeah.
latched on, to my character because of that shared kind of story. And I just always think about, I mean, if you just really even just think about his trek from East Africa,
Yeah.
and as large as the continent is,
Yeah.
whether you go by
Exactly.
land or sea, and you don't have any money. So what was that? What was that like? And to get all the way to the States, and then to get to the middle of the country in Chicago with uh who did he know, and how, it's like barely anybody there. And to like etch out this place where he finds this family, we don't know what he's running from yet. I know, but no one's asking me. Uh,
I kind
uh,
of don't want to know, Edward. I'm not like, don't,
no,
I don't
no,
want to
no.
know.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, there are all of these kind of like of Easter eggs,
Yeah.
like the story of the Battle of Mogadishu in the first series of episodes, and then in this episode he mentions Kuwait. So there's all of these there's all of these little nuggets. But just that a trek and how someone decides that they're gonna go on their own and how he finds his family and how he really needs this place in a way that maybe it's akin to Carmi, but very, very different, because the shows, I always say the show's about the family you find versus the family that you inherit. And these people love, and I think in some ways really need each other as well.
100%. It's a beautiful show, and I would say to everyone watching this, make sure go and watch season four. It's out now, Disney Plus here in the UK. And if you haven't started The Bear, I don't know what you're doing, but go and watch the entire program because for me, like I say, it's my favorite show of all time. Edwin, I wanted to talk to you about teaching as well because I know that you've done a lot of sort of teaching in your time, and I want to just ask you the question. And you've touched on, pieces of advice and what you say about your craft earlier. But if you have to give one piece of advice to a sort of young creator coming up now, like what is that golden nugget that you would give to them?
Oh man, yeah, I always say that my years teaching, I taught in a performing arts conservatory in New York City, and
Yeah.
also an art center up in Westchester County, just north of New York City.
Mm.
And I think those young people made me a better actor.
Yeah.
I had to be clearer, and the more clarity you gain, and the more you're able to listen, but they helped me so much. But with young actors or with young creators, I always say, I mean, I'm a huge fan of things that make me things that where I can see how fallible I am.
Mm.
I'm a huge fan of that, and I
Yeah.
think my work and my craft shows me oftentimes, you know, where I can still go, even after 46 years.
Yeah.
Um, but I always say to young actors in particular, I say, if you're gonna do this, sit in a room alone and have a very honest conversation with yourself about what you can do without.
Subtract.
Because this thing's gonna ask a lot of you,
Mm.
and it's gonna ask you to give up some things that you may not be willing to give up.
Yeah.
uh, and it'll continue to do that, even now. And so really having an honest conversation about what you can do without,
Mm.
and to um, define success, for yourself. Uh,
Mm.
I think 46 years and 104 theater productions has been successful.
100%.
I mean, it doesn't equate to money. I mean, none of that equates
Mm.
to kind of what we think this whole thing is from the outside.
Yeah.
Uh, But when you define it for yourself, then you can go about the business of just doing the work without um having your eye. I mean, it's not always easy, but not having your eye on s- what 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 or how someone else has done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. I think defining your own success is,
Yeah,
not only in acting, but just in life. It's,
yeah,
it's, it's just a good lesson for people to learn. And you've talked
yeah.
there, right? You said 46 years, 104 theatre productions. What do you want to do next in your career? Is there something in your career that you think that's the next thing that I would love to do?
Yeah, I'm a bit nebulous. I don't like not knowing how to do anything. So about 10 years ago, I went back. Well, my undergraduate degrees are in mathematics and social theory.
Wow.
Um, yeah, not acting at all. I've never like had to act, participated in the theater school.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have lasted, if they'd gotten rid of me. Uh, but uh, but in 2015, I went back and I got an MFA in writing for the screen.
Mm.
because I don't like to not know anything. I've been writing and directing in the theater.
Mm.
And so I've written a fair amount of things, even with our show currently. I give myself exercises. I write scenes um between characters just on my own
Yeah,
season. And so and in December I wrote in, well, I directed a piece that I'd written. So I took my series three money and I went and I made something. Uh,
amazing.
yeah, had a conversation with Christopher Storer. He said, "Don't try to make the long version of it. You're going to use all your money." I made the short version of it. Still used all my money. Uh, but I shot a short film called A Pink and Red Dress Made of Satin Covered in Flowers, Mostly Roses.
Nice.
I shot that in Tucson, Arizona, um, in December. Just finished the edit on that. Um, but and directing was something I was like, wow. And, I have a small part in it, but I got behind the camera as quickly as possible to like really learn how to direct. It was my first directing job. First thing that I wrote that I directed, of course, and I think we'll be ready to start do a screening later July and start this whole festival thing. So yeah, so there's always something else. Like when I think I've done something, I think I've done everything. There's always something else because there's always great artists of uh, past and great artists, young artists now. And it's fluid. So yeah, so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm writing more. I'm directing this piece and hopefully someone will allow me to do more of that. And smoking cigars. I am.
Well, yeah, smoking cigars. I want to do more of that too. We talked about that before the show. I love a cigar. Love a cigar when I get my hands on one.
When I get that side, if I got to drive, what is it? 8 hours, eight and a
Yeah,
half hours up to Scotland.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have to get there.
Hit me up. We will
There we
get a
go.
cigar together, my friend.
All
And
right.
listen, I think that's as good a place to any as any to end it. So thank you so much for your time today, Edwin. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure.
Brilliant success with season four. Again, encourage everyone to watch it at home.
And cheers to everyone there.
A brilliant discussion there with Edwin. I loved having a chat with him. Make sure you check out The Bear here in the UK. It's on Disney Plus. Season 4 has just dropped. And don't forget to check out everything that we've got here at the podcast as well. We just had an interview with Sanjeev Kohli that's up just now on the feed and the YouTube channel. And we're hoping to have more interviews in the very near future, as well as some sushi patter action coming back soon. But thank you so much for tuning in with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope you have a good day, night, morning, wherever you're at in your day listening to this or watching this. Have a good one.